My own sister looked me in the eye and told me my baby was dead. I believed her. I sobbed into her arms and buried an empty casket, thinking my life was over. But 14 months later, a tiny birthmark on a stranger's child revealed the sickening truth. My baby wasn't dead. My sister, my own doctor, had sold him for $50,000 to a wealthy couple. Now I'm not just a grieving mother, I am her worst nightmare. My name is Rebecca. I'm 32 years old. Phoenix heat makes everything shimmer like a mirage, and that's exactly what my life became. Nothing but smoke and lies baking under the Arizona sun. 14 months ago, I walked into my sister's private practice on Camelback Road, thinking I was getting a routine checkup at 32 weeks. Lisa had insisted on doing the ultrasound herself, said it was special, having family take care of family during such an important time. I remember the gel was too cold. She'd forgotten to warm it, which wasn't like her. Lisa was always meticulous, the kind of doctor who remembered patient birthdays and sent handwritten notes after procedures. But that Tuesday afternoon in March, her hands shook while moving the wand across my belly. At the time, I thought she was emotional about becoming an aunt. "Rebecca, I need you to stay calm." Her voice cracked on my name. "There's no heartbeat. The baby, I'm so sorry. We've lost the heartbeat." The room tilted. Fluorescent lights above me became blinding white tunnels. My throat closed like someone had wrapped steel wire around my windpipe and pulled. Lost the heartbeat? Those 3 words didn't make sense strung together. Babies don't just lose heartbeats at 32 weeks. Not healthy babies. Not my baby. That's not possible. He was kicking this morning. He's fine. Check again. Lisa's face did something strange then, a micro-expression I couldn't read. "Sometimes these things happen. We need to induce labor tonight. The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes for you." Everything after that blurred into a nightmare sequence. The hospital admission, the epidural, the pushing. I remember screaming for them to let me see him, to hold my son, but Lisa kept saying it was better if I didn't, better for my mental health, better for closure. That word became a hammer beating me into submission. "He wasn't fully formed," she whispered, gripping my hand. "You don't want that as your last memory. Trust me. I'm your sister. I'm your doctor. Trust me." So I did. God help me, I trusted her. They gave me pills for the milk that came anyway, pills for the depression that swallowed me whole, pills for the insomnia that turned every night into a waking funeral. My husband Mark held me while I sobbed into his chest, my body instinctively searching for the weight it had carried and lost. The phantom kicks haunted me. I'd feel movement and reach down to touch my stomach, only to find it flat and empty and wrong. Mark couldn't take it. 6 months after we buried an empty casket, Lisa had handled all the arrangements, wasn't she thoughtful? He filed for divorce. The Harrisons. Wealthy doesn't begin to cover it. James Harrison owned half the commercial real estate between Phoenix and Tucson. His wife Diane wore diamonds to the grocery store and drove a Range Rover that cost more than my annual salary. They'd been patients of Lisa's for years, struggling with infertility. I knew because Lisa used to come home from work and vent about demanding patients who thought money could solve biology. They stood near the pool holding a little boy, maybe 14 months old. Dark curls, wide brown eyes, chubby hands reaching for his mother's pearl necklace. Something in my chest cracked. Not my heart, that had shattered already. This was deeper, cellular, the kind of recognition that happens in marrow and blood. Lisa clinked her champagne glass. The crowd quieted. Sophia stood on a chair, grinning with frosting-covered teeth. "I want to thank everyone for coming," Lisa began, her voice carrying that practiced warmth she used with nervous patients. "Watching Sophia grow has been the greatest joy of my life. Motherhood is a gift, a blessing some of us receive easily, and others," her eyes found mine across the crowd, "others struggle with. My heart breaks for my sister Rebecca, who lost her baby last year. I pray every day she finds peace with her empty womb. Empty womb. She said it like a diagnosis, like a fact, like my body was a vacant room that had failed its only purpose. People shifted uncomfortably. A few offered sympathetic smiles. Diane Harrison actually laughed, this light tinkling sound, and whispered something to her husband. He nodded, looking at me with what might have been pity or might have been amusement. The boy in Diane's arms dropped his sippy cup. It rolled toward me, leaking apple juice onto the perfectly manicured grass. I bent to pick it up, and that's when I saw it. His left shoulder. The sleeve of his tiny polo shirt had ridden up, exposing a birthmark. Not just any birthmark, a port wine stain shaped like a crescent moon. The exact same mark my father had. The exact same mark I had on my right hip. A genetic quirk that ran through the maternal line of our family like a signature. My hands went numb. The sippy cup slipped from my fingers. Before we go any further, real quick, if this story is hitting you hard, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. I love knowing where my community is. Okay, back to the story. The boy reached for me, actually stretched his little arms toward my face and made grabbing motions. Diane pulled him back quickly, that practiced mother reflex that comes from months of bonding, months I'd lost, months that had been stolen. "Sorry about the cup," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Oliver is going through a throwing phase." Oliver. They'd named my son Oliver. I smiled, managed to nod, handed her the cup with shaking hands. "He's beautiful. How old?" 14 months. We adopted him right after birth. Private arrangement through a medical contact. Best decision we ever made." She kissed his curly head. My son's curly head. Though the adoption process was so rushed, we barely had time to prepare. But when you know, right? 14 months, right after birth, medical contact. Lisa appeared at my elbow. "Becca, you okay? You look pale." I turned to face my sister, really looked at her. The Gucci purse, the Cartier watch, the Tesla in the driveway that hadn't been there 6 months ago. She'd always complained about money, about medical school debt, about her husband's failed business ventures. "I'm fine," I heard myself say. "Just need some air." I left the party, drove home in a fugue state, sat in my apartment, the one bedroom Mark had left me with, and stared at the wall until the sun set. Then I made a list. Facts. Baby declared dead at 32 weeks. No body shown to me. Lisa handled all arrangements, insisted on cremation, gave me an urn I'd never opened because the thought of looking at ash made me want to die. The Harrisons adopted a baby 14 months ago through a medical contact. Their son had my family's genetic birthmark. Lisa suddenly had money. I called my father at midnight. "Dad, did you ever see pictures of the baby after?" Silence. Then, "Your sister said it was better if we didn't. Why are you asking this, Rebecca?" Did anyone demand to see him? Did anyone? We trusted Lisa's medical judgment. She said. I hung up, spent the next 6 hours researching private adoptions, medical malpractice, genetic markers, and DNA testing. By dawn, I had a plan. The next Saturday, Lisa invited me to brunch, said she was worried about me after I'd left the party early. We met at a cafe in Tempe, and I smiled through mimosas and small talk. Then I asked if we could stop by the Harrisons' house. I had forgotten to give Oliver a gift at the party, and I felt terrible about it. Lisa's face did that thing again, that micro-expression. Fear, maybe, or calculation. That's really not necessary. I insist. I have a gift card to that fancy baby boutique. Please, it'll make me feel better. She couldn't say no without seeming suspicious. We drove to their Paradise Valley estate. Diane answered the door, surprised but gracious. Oliver was in his high chair, destroying a plate of cut strawberries. I'd brought a juice box as part of the gift bag. Organic, expensive, the kind wealthy parents approve of. "Can he have this?" I asked Diane. She glanced at the label. "Oh, he loves these, thank you." I watched him drink. watched the juice dribble down his chin, watched Diane wipe it with a napkin she then tossed in the trash. I excused myself to the bathroom, doubled back, and retrieved that napkin, wrapped it in a plastic bag from my purse, left before my hands could shake visibly. The DNA lab I'd researched offered rapid testing, 72 hours. I submitted my sample and Oliver's simultaneously, paid extra for discretion, and waited. Those 3 days lasted 3 years. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, kept seeing that birthmark, kept hearing Lisa's voice. "Trust me, I'm your sister." The results came via email. 99.9% probability of maternal match. Oliver was mine, my son, my baby who hadn't died, who'd been stolen and sold like property while I'd been drugged and grieving. I vomited, actually fell to my knees in front of my laptop and retched until nothing came up but bile and rage. Then I called a lawyer, then the FBI, then the Arizona Medical Board, then every news outlet in Phoenix. Turns out Lisa had gambling debts, over $200,000 owed to some very unfriendly people in Vegas. She'd been desperate, the Harrisons had been desperate, and I'd been convenient, a single patient, no husband present during the procedure, trusting enough to believe whatever I was told. She'd induced labor early, told me the baby died, forged a death certificate, handed my living, breathing son to the Harrisons in exchange for cash that kept her kneecaps intact. The arrest happened fast. FBI doesn't mess around with child trafficking. Lisa was in handcuffs within 48 hours. The medical board suspended her license immediately. The Harrisons claimed ignorance, said they'd paid for a legal private adoption, had no idea the birth mother hadn't consented. Their lawyers were expensive. Mine was better. 6 months of court battles, DNA evidence, medical records showing I'd been capable of carrying to term, testimony from nurses who'd thought it was odd that Lisa had handled everything alone. Security footage from the hospital showing her leaving with a baby carrier the night I gave birth. I got Oliver back on a Tuesday, the same day of the week I'd lost him. He cried when they took him from Diane, screamed actually, reached for the only mother he'd known while a stranger, me, tried to soothe him with a voice he didn't recognize. The social workers said it would take time, said I needed to be patient, said love was something we'd have to build. She was right. The first months were hell. Oliver wanted Diane, wanted his room, his toys, his routine. I was just the lady who'd stolen him from everything familiar. But I showed up every day, every tantrum, every tear. I showed up because he was mine, and I'd already lost him once. Lisa got 8 years, federal prison. The Harrisons got their money back and a lawsuit that'll keep their lawyers busy for years. My father hasn't spoken to me since I destroyed the family by pressing charges. Apparently, blood is only thicker than water when it's convenient. Oliver is 3 now, calls me mama, has my laugh and his father's stubborn streak, still has that crescent moon birthmark that saved his life. We live in Flagstaff now, needed mountains and distance from the desert that nearly buried us both. Sometimes he asks about Dee Dee. I tell him the truth in ways a 3-year-old can understand. That he had a different family for a little while, but now he's home. That sometimes people make terrible mistakes, but love finds a way. I don't tell him about the nightmares, about waking up convinced he's gone again, about checking his room 17 times before I can sleep, about the therapy bills and the lawyer fees, and the fact that I'll probably never trust a doctor again. But I tell him he's loved every single day. I tell him he's wanted, that I fought armies to bring him home, that his birthmark is magic, proof that he belongs to this family, to this bloodline, to me. The lesson here isn't about forgiveness. Lisa doesn't deserve that. It's about trusting your gut when something feels wrong, about demanding answers even when people call you crazy, about fighting for the truth even when it destroys everything you thought you knew. My sister stole my baby and sold him like merchandise, but she couldn't steal the biology that connected us. couldn't erase the genetic signature that marked him as mine. And when I found that proof, I burned her entire world down without hesitation. Life isn't always what it seems. Every day I bring you these real and gripping stories where women turn the tables. If you don't want to miss them, please subscribe and join our small community. Thank you, and take care.